Was it hard to date when you were in the wrestling business?
Very hard to date.
Did you date outside the business or did you date inside the business?
I didn't date anybody.
Wow.
I didn't date anybody.
But you had to play the channels.
Yeah, well, that was before I started working for
Right,
WWE.
right.
That's when I had all the off time.
Right.
But no, I didn't. I didn't have any time, and the only person I ever dated was Steve Austin.
Okay.
That was over a year into being in WWF.
What were your initial impressions of The Rock?
Classic. Just funny. I mean, to see Steve and The Rock backstage clowning around.
Right.
And they would shoot these promos that no one would ever see. That was classic.
Hmm.
Classic.
Your first impressions of Steve Austin. How did you first run into him?
I remember at a few shows he came up, introduced himself, and I thought he was sort of snobby.
Right.
So I was like, "Oh, nice to meet you," and then I was like, "I'm not going to talk to him because he's so full of himself."
Huh.
Blah blah blah, and then he just kept picking at me, and then it was like a year into me working there, and he was giving Christian a hug, and I remember I walked by and I was like, "Oh, were you going to give me one too?" And he hugged me, and I don't know, it was we
Sparks
both,
a little.
Isn't that weird?
Right.
Yeah, and then we started flirting, and then we're trying to kayfabe it, and not. But you know, everyone knows when you're doing something. You're like kids in the family. They know when something's off of your norm, and they would see him on the phone and me on the phone at the same time, look at each other.
Right.
They figured it out.
Wow. Did any of the other boys ever hit on you in the locker room when you first came over there?
Let me think. I think they tried. I'm trying to remember. I think they tried at first. I think they do that to see if you're going to play around.
Right.
And
Stuck to your guns.
yeah, you don't. What's that Southern saying? You don't mess where you
Yeah, I know.
eat
exactly.
or whatever that
Right.
is.
Well, let's talk about, I guess, your relationship with Steve. You said, it started out innocent flirting and stuff like that, and then how did it develop into an actual full-fledged relationship?
I think he kissed me after that, and then, boy, he's a handsome man.
Right.
Got a good body, too. Yeah, and it was just, we had good chemistry.
Now, does the office have any, I guess, rules where you're not supposed to enter mixed business, or was it pretty much you guys were allowed to do whatever?
I really think in the business, I don't think they like when someone crosses the line. I think they have more of an issue when people just sleep with
Right.
all the
boys.
guys. You know,
Right.
I would see a lot of girls come in and they'd be so pretty with potential, and then they just would freak out and just sleep with all the guys, and then they would last and be gone.
I've heard a couple of different girls.
Yeah, and it's sad. It's like, you just...
Right. Now, as far as Steve, were you guys traveling together?
Once we were... Then I stopped traveling with Tess and Val Venus, and then I started traveling with him.
Now, how difficult was that? Because he was on top of the game, and you talked about going to the laundry mats. What was that like traveling with
It's like
Steve?
being with Elvis.
How did he handle it personally?
No, and actually I learned a lot from him too, on how you're so personable to your fans because they make you, and he was always real cordial to his fans. And he could drive like a maniac. So many times after a show, the fans would follow us, and he would fly down the road like 100 miles an hour, and then he would just whip it around in the medium to go the other way just to lose the person, or go just take off on a side ramp.
Wow.
So he was a good... Actually, he never would scare me driving because I knew he had like quick reactions.
Right.
So I knew he was always in control.
What was his schedule like? I mean, he was on top of the world. He had to do PR for the company. I mean, how tiring did that get him?
He could be picky at what he did. I knew he was offered a lot of movie roles and stuff he would turn down. I'm like, Steve, give it to me.
Right.
But no, seriously, he was real picky at what he would choose to do.
Going to restaurants and hotels, how did you guys deal with all the fans? And
Well, yeah, it was unbelievable. And he was really good at signing autographs and taking pictures. And
right.
the only thing I hated, one time we were going to a show, and I had a Burger King that day. I love Burger King cheeseburgers.
Right.
And we got on the plane. I started getting sick at my stomach. Now imagine being married to Steve Austin, sitting in first class. We sort of stand out, especially Steve with that bald head and those glasses.
Right.
And all of a sudden I got sick as a dog, like throwing up in the plane. And I was so embarrassed because everyone was staring at me. I was throwing when people were getting on the plane. And I was just going, oh man, someone just shoot me now, because here's everyone staring at me because I know it's Steve, and here I am throwing up in the little bag on the plane.
Right.
I have nowhere to go. I was so sick that day, but that was not fun to be married to Steve Austin then, because everyone was, when you're really nauseous like that, you're being stared at.
Any obsessed fans ever like have any problems like at hotels where they would knock on your doors and?
Oh yeah, that would happen a lot. Knocking on the doors or either we would have room service and then they would bring in about 10 people.
Did he ever like blow up or
No.
did he ever tell you can't deal with the fame? I mean, here he was on top
No,
of.
he would always sign autographs and just be, yeah, he was really good to his fans. I learned a lot from him on how you just that whole fan interaction.
Right. Did you ever have to find laundromats on the road, or was it?
Oh, this is so funny. Steve Austin was fixated on us going to laundromats.
Right. How did that work out for you
I
guys?
used to hate that. It used to embarrass me. I'm like, Steve, why do we have to go to the laundromat? I mean, we can bring enough clothes on the road. But no, he wanted to go to the laundromats. And then we would just be a ruckus. And
Bombarded.
everyone staring at us and asking for autographs. And
Did you like turning?
because one thing about me, I turned down Playboy before.
What happened with that? Why was that?
Actually, Charlie Besser, my friend, and he had it set up that I could do Playboy. They were going to pay me $500,000.
Wow.
I know that sounds.
Why'd you turn it down?
Well, I was married to Steve Austin.
And he said no.
Oh, yeah. I didn't want to be killed right there on the spot. And I wanted to so bad, but I knew he would go out.
Wow.
Now, if they would have just called me a year before I met him, then I would have done it in a second.
That was one of my questions, but yeah.
Oh, I would have done it and who knows? You never know.
Wow.
I would still love to do Playboy.
Make the call. Right.
I'm a fast learner.
Was there any, I guess, instances where you had to confront one of the girls? Because you talked about that a couple of times where you speak your mind. Did you ever have to speak your mind and, face somebody behind the scenes?
Oh, I did that once to Tori.
Tori Wilson?
She was hitting on Steve.
Really? What happened?
But that was more of a girl. That was a girl to girl, woman to woman
Right.
hitting on my husband, which all women can relate to that. I don't play that way.
Right.
Yeah, actually, the Undertaker and his wife brought it to my attention, and they were like, "What?" And I said, "No way, she wouldn't do that." And then I started watching her, and I was like, "Well, she is." And then I had to call her out in front of all the boys.
What exactly happened?
I just grabbed her by the arm and was like, "Hey, you need to come here right now." And I just told her if she didn't stop, I was gonna kick her butt. But that was disrespectful. This is my husband, and she started crying. And
Did she apologize, or was she with Billy at the time, or no?
she was, yeah.
Wow.
She was crying and her nose was running but I meant it because that's just disrespectful. Whether you're in this, you don't hit on someone's husband.
Right.
You just don't do that. No matter if you're whatever you're doing in life. That's just, and I think So I had to. That was the only time, but that was more of a personal issue.
Right.
But then I didn't have any more problems with her after that.
That's good. How soon did you and Steve get married after you started dating?
We started dating, I think, about in May of '99, and then he talked them to let me off to take care of him when he had the neck surgery. I think that was back in September. So I would say from May till September, we dated and then got married.
That was pretty quick. 4 months, 5 months, maybe?
Yeah, it's pretty.
Wow. Did things change once you got married?
Yeah.
How did things change?
Not for the good.
Right.
Yeah, Steve just got a little bit more aggressive with his personality.
Do you think...
Which-
Go ahead.
No, it was just, it was, he'd never... So that was really difficult because I'm working now, married to him, and then, the domestic abuse, because the last time when the police were called, when he was arrested, that was the third time. And I'm not a really big woman, and it's just, it was just time. I had read up on it, and it was getting a little bit out of hand.
Well, I want to talk about the entire, scenario situation. How did it start? And you've been pretty open about the abuse, so...
No, and a lot of times, like I said, I've trained at Safe House in Colorado to speak to schools about this problem. And it can start very gradually, as in, they take you away from your loved ones. You're more, as people that knew me, they could tell I was becoming more in a shell because he didn't really like me talking to people, and I was becoming really like a recluse,
Right.
which is not my personality.
So he was controlling, I guess?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Everyone knew that too, but that's Steve. You don't mess with Steve. But and then I remember the first time he hit me was in the hotel room.
An actual punch or a slap or...
He actually slapped me, and then he threw me across the room.
Wow.
So then I had bruises on my face, and they had to cover them up on TV, and then I had to go to the doctor when I got home. I thought my collarbone was broken.
What was the fight even about, if you don't mind me?
Something stupid. Just, oh, it's embarrassing. It was more, he wanted me to do something intimate, and I was like, I'm tired. And that's what he got mad about.
Gotcha.
That's what he hit me for.
Gotcha.
So, you know, when you're dealing with, and he did take too many steroids. He was too much on that. And then you're mixing that with alcohol. That whole thing is what I've learned with, you know, Safe House. That's a whole mixture of craziness.
Right.
You know what? So then I married him, and then I think it went for a few months, and then he went off again on something, and he hit me, and then I flew home to Alabama, and, you know, it was really sad because our kids, my best friend's kids saw bruises on me, and I'm like, this is getting out of hand.
Did you ever confront him like, Steve, you can't touch a woman, or did you not want to? I don't know him personally. I mean, I know him, but I don't know him well.
He would almost laugh about it a little bit. Like, I don't think he realized the rage that was in him. And it was hard for me because, you know, people love him. You know, he's a great entertainer, great wrestler, great. But, you know, just with his personal life wasn't too good.
Do you think it was, you mentioned steroids and alcohol, or do you think it a lot had to do with the pressure of the business and him being on top? And the
Maybe, you know, if I had known him before he got into the business, you know, I didn't really know what he was like without that. You know, that's just pretty much Steve.
Right. I guess, were the best times better than the worst of the bad times, or?
You know, it's funny with domestic abuse and all that. You're sort of like in a cycle, because the good times are great and the bad times are bad. And that's what keeps you locked in this circle.
Right. Now, you said you pretty much couldn't really talk to him about the problem. Did you ever talk to anybody, or I guess you didn't?
No, we did go to therapy. We did go to therapy because I thought, this is, you know, we're falling apart here. And, you know, this is really getting to where I could really get, it was really getting really bad. And I remember I went to a marriage counselor, and he was like, yeah, I hit her. That was after the first time he hit me. And then she got on to him, and he wouldn't go back anymore.
Wow. So did he admit that he had a problem, or do you think
he said he just didn't want that woman telling him what to do.
Right.
It was a female therapist.
No, I mean, as far as you, do you think he realized that he had a problem as far as being abusive, or do you think he was just being himself and, you know, so to speak?
I don't know if he ever realized. You know, well, he would always say he was sorry afterwards, which is one of the signs that keeps you in this cycle. Because then you're like, oh, he's so sweet. I know it sounds crazy for women that's never experienced, and me of all people, I'm such a strong person, but it just keeps you pulled in there.
Did you ever try to talk to Vince or someone in power about his problems, or was that something that you dare not to do?
No, because my job was tied into that. I mean,
right.
That was my job. And they don't want to hear, this is their top star, they don't want to hear about this. I mean, they got their own problems they're dealing with without these problems, and I just thought maybe if I didn't talk about it, it would just ease up.
Was there an issue, I guess, what happened between him and Raven? The one time, I guess he thought Raven was looking at you when he changed in front of you or something like that?
Oh, Lord, he was always getting mad at somebody. No, he was always going off. It was so embarrassing, but that's why I think some people, I mean, it got to where at the end, guys wouldn't even really want to look at, you know, like, I'd have to walk with my head down, so he wouldn't yell at me or yell at the guys or anything.
So I guess you would consider him being pretty jealous. So, it sounds like Randy Savage and Liz a little bit.
This very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar. Because at the end, I would have to, at the house shows, you know, I would go to the house shows, but he wouldn't let me work. So I'd sit in the dressing room.
Right.
Very similar.
Wow. I guess what was the final straw that broke the camel's back between you two?
I told him, I said, if you hit me one more time, that's it.
Did he hit
you? And I'm a woman of my word, and I was like, you know, I love this man to death. I love him so much, and he hit me that over, because I had company at my house, and we were talking about the Chicago Bears. So when that happened, boy, I knew I was going to lose my job. I knew it was going to be everywhere. And when I made that phone call, you know, he left the house, and the police came within 5 minutes, and I knew then it was,
wow.
It was so embarrassing.
When he would hit you, would it be a just slap, or would it actually be closed fist, or?
The last time he hit me was really pretty violent. You know, he did a backhand on me, and then he was pounding me in my head. So that was I can understand how women feel when you know you're going to die, because I thought my head was going to like explode.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you get him off?
I don't know how. I don't know. I just kept pushing, and I finally knocked him off because he was on the bed. But I was really so scared. But I knew when I made that phone call that was.
Did he get arrested? I don't remember what he got arrested for that. Okay.
Mm-hmm. He got a year. which I wanted him to have for his anger, and that's what I wanted to come out of this. So he got a year probation, and he had to do anger management classes and pay a fine and do community service. So hopefully, that's what I wanted. I wanted him to get some help, and then, therefore, then I, look at the good thing. Now I'm doing, speaking to schools about domestic violence and all that.
So after the last time, was that pretty much you guys were through at that point in time? I mean, did you guys have any contact?
Actually, we got back together for a little bit, and then during his court time, because I was ready to throw the book at him. They were ready to, put him in jail. And so I was sort of being supportive of him so they wouldn't throw the book at him.
Right.
And
looking back, are you glad you were helping him a little bit, or do you think that kind of
No, when I think back, I was in such a state, I didn't know what I was doing. Because then that's part of when you're abused, you're in a cycle. And again, it happens, I'm just talking about women, it can happen to, a woman beating a guy, or, whatever it can be. Gay couples, it can be whatever. It's whatever the cycle that goes around, and it's because you just can't get out of it.
Right.
But that's when I had to go and say, this is it, I'm done. I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my marriage, I'm going to lose my husband. But I don't want to get hurt anymore.
So when you guys finally, I guess, decided to split, how did that come about?
No, Steve served me a divorce.
Okay.
2 days after he got off on the court.
Wow. There you go. You think he was setting that up, just waiting for it?
Yeah.
How did you take it?
Oh, well, I knew, I knew things when it was, but I couldn't leave him when he was in his court.
Right.
Because I knew they would throw the book at him. I knew he would serve jail time, because they would make a mark out of Steve, so, as in a point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, he just beat me to the gun.
Was it hard working there when you came back? For you, in WWE? Or were you pretty much already done at this point?
No, we never, when I walked out with Steve, that was
your last time?
That was it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are you two still friendly today at all? Do you still talk at all, or is that?
We'll still, we're friends now. I think time heals, and time, it's been a few months since I talked with Steve, but we talk every now and then. And that's good, because, you got to move on in your life, and you've got to, we both, this happened, and he's gotten some help, which is great. And I've moved on to, turn a negative into a positive, and, talk to schools and stuff, and help out other people that's been abused. And, yeah, now we're just going our own. I'm happy for him and all his movie roles and being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he deserves it. And it's funny how time, you can't hold grudges in your life, because, that'll make you really bitter.
Right.
And so we've just moved on. And
okay. Well, getting back to Steve as a character in the ring, when they turned him heel, The Office, was he upset, or was he for that?
No, I think he was up for that.
Right.
He was having fun with that.
What are your memories of some of the angles that he had with Triple H and Steph?
Oh my gosh, I remember whenever that time we were slapping each other, we were backstage in Dallas, me and Stephanie. I remember telling her, okay, now you slap me for real, and I'm going to slap you back for real too, but make it good. Oh man, I thought she hit good.
Right.
But that was fun. I wanted to do more of that, but Steve really wouldn't allow me to do a lot after I married him but that was so much fun, that one night backstage, and we were rolling. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, the angle.
Oh, I love that.
So you definitely were into the physical aspect of this, the business.
Loved it.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I just did that movie, Gathering of the Heroes, and I had to learn how to fight with a sword, and had to dye my hair dark brown.
I've seen pictures of that, I think.
And that was very challenging, but when I was a kid, I was a tomboy. So.
Right. Getting back as far as the power that you guys had, how different was it for you guys now to be part of the Power Clique? Because you now were pretty much, with the top dogs in the company when you were Steve.
I guess being from the, being an NFL's wife, he's all pro and Super Bowl winner. I didn't really think, because I think I know the business of show business. When your fame's here and you're down, and you're.
Right.
So I learned from an early age not to let it go to my head.